Okay, I want to clear something up. I'm aware that this video won't get a lot of views because yes, I already covered a flight on a British Airways A319. In fact, I recently thought about scrapping this review altogether, and that would have been the case if I ended up with the same product. But as it turns out for this flight, I ended up on an aircraft with a completely different interior. The old one, to be exact. In my other review on Flight 923, I reviewed their standard hard product and stated that I'd recommend it. It would only be fair if I reviewed this old product as well, as it isn't really possible to predict which one you'll get. If you're unsure about flying short haul on British Airways, I'd highly suggest watching both this video and my review on Flight 923. Both interiors will be covered. Anyways, my flight today will be numbered 920, the opposite route. London Heathrow to Stuttgart. As you can see, I just got off my previous flight from Chicago here at London Heathrow's Terminal 5. You should check out that video too. My flight will be out of Terminal 3 today, so I'll be taking the bus there. I'm not gonna lie, this is a nice bus. Didn't think they'd care to install mood lighting, but it's a cool touch. The ride to Terminal 3 was long, to say the least, but I have a 6-hour layover here, so I'll be perfectly fine. A 6-hour layover still isn't ideal for me. However, based on what I'm seeing, there really isn't a better place for me to spend it than Heathrow Terminal 3. Okay, never mind, Terminal 2 is better, but 3 is almost up there. It's highly abundant in places to eat, shop, and sit down, and although it can get extremely crowded in this area, some concourses may be completely empty, like the southwest area of the terminal here. I don't know what was up with it, as there were wide bodies parked all around it, mostly operated by airlines in Oneworld and SkyTeam, but none of them were operating flights. I was one of the only people in here. Also, the concourse was so narrow, I don't know how it can accommodate flights with all these wide bodies. It sure must get crowded when it does. It's become clear that Terminal 3 is the international terminal of the Oneworld and SkyTeam Alliance carriers. British Airways gets almost the entirety of Terminal 5, so I'm confused about why British Airways operates some flights out of this terminal as well. This is only my second time at Heathrow, and I don't know much about it. However, that didn't stop me from enjoying my time here. It's not often that I get a chance to spot this many wide bodies and have the time to do so. That includes this Delta Airlines Boeing 767-400. I didn't know this at the time, but this is the gate where I would fly out of on an American Airlines 777 a week later. And as usual at this terminal, there were a lot of heavies operated by American Airlines, like the Streamliner and the 777. Heathrow serves many United States destinations, so you can expect that. Based on what I've seen so far, I'd say that the dominant carriers at this terminal are American Airlines and Virgin Atlantic, and well, maybe Delta. They seem to make up most of the traffic at Heathrow T3, but I have to admit that this was still one of the most diverse terminals I've seen at a major airport, especially at the southern concourse. Basically, what I mean is that I could spot a small British Airways Airbus at one gate, and then look to the left and see a WestJet 787 Dreamliner. And there was also an Emirates A380 in the mix. And I'm pretty sure this concourse only has like, what, 4 gates? Pretty unusual. It's like these gates are just random aircraft generators. You'll never know which airline you'll get. I had time to pick up some lunch at Cafe Nero while I was here. It was delicious. I saw my fair share of British Airways A319s fly here, but none of them were mine. Eventually my aircraft did take off from Budapest, and it would perform its 2-hour trek from there to Heathrow before I'd get on board. Oh, and by the way, my aircraft for today will be Golf Delta Bravo Charlie Delta, 18 years old at the time, 3 years younger than the one I took from Stuttgart to London a week after this. What I didn't know at this time was that this particular A319 hadn't yet been updated with the standard British economy product. So, you could say I was in for a surprise. I don't know what was up with how unsure the airport was with some of these flights, because they didn't even want to pick a gate for my plane until 45 minutes prior to scheduled departure. It might have had something to do with how busy the airport was. My plane arrived while I was eating dinner, and it just waited. Waited and waited for about half an hour. The gates must have been completely full for a while, and the A319 had nowhere to go. But eventually gate 27 in the north concourse opened up, I guess, and the plane settled on that one. As soon as it was announced, I immediately made my way there. But when I got there, I realized that I got one of the worst gates in the terminal for me as a nav geek. There was no window and none nearby as well, which meant that I couldn't get a shot of the plane from the airport. However, we're in luck, because as it turns out, This A319 already made a small appearance in a previous video, which I didn't even know about until I edited it. That sure was quite a coincidence, and we'll catch another glimpse of her in the gate anyway, which will be now as we are boarding. Okay, so I'm sorry, but I'm not going to be at a window seat today, so wing view shots won't be possible. This was another reason why I thought about scrapping this review, but like I said, I have the opportunity to review this older interior, so I may as well take it. My first impressions of it are that it's very nostalgic, actually. Reminds me a lot of flying within Europe in the early 2010s. There are some good aspects to these classic seats, like this coat hook, but there are also various downsides compared to the standard seats on British Airways short haul. Unlike those, these seats do not have headrests. Also, there doesn't seem to be quite as much legroom here as the modern interior. This kinda surprises me, given the apparent trend of airlines cramming more and more seats inside their planes. But what's interesting is that unlike the British Airways A319s of the Echo Uniform Oscar and Echo Uniform Papa series of tail numbers, the Delta Bravo Charlie A319s, including this one, are all ex-British Midland Airways aircraft. This aircraft was most definitely given to British Airways after the International Airlines Group acquired British Midland in 2012, and it might be that these seats were from British Midland and were never switched out since then. They have good recline for this route and a decent sized tray table. They were kinda showing age though. The hanger on one of the seats in my row was missing, and my seat pocket was falling apart. The contents, however, not so much. I could tell that the safety card was clean, looked pretty new, and the air sickness bag was... 5 air sickness bags? What? No. They gave me 5 air sickness bags. British Airways, what do you think this is? My first flight? Yeah. That was odd. Oh, also there was a buy on board menu, like on Lufthansa. For some reason, on the flight I took a week later, they didn't have this, even though it was practically the same route. I'm not planning on buying anything since it's a 1-hour flight, but let's take a look. The prices are not bad, expected to say the least. The cabin crew handed out sanitizing wipes. I'm happy there are some airlines that still do this. And now, it's time we go to Stuttgart.
My name is your in-flight manager, and it's my pleasure to welcome you all on board. Lockers or underneath the seat in front of you. All customers sitting in the front row seat on emergency exit row should place a very warm welcome to Stuttgart. When the local time here, security fastened until the fasten seatbelt signs have been switched off. When it's safe to do so, please...
That was a flight, I guess. Can't think of any other word to describe it. It was fine. Flight attendants were wonderful as usual with British Airways, and my opinions on the onboard service are pretty much the same as on Flight 923, standard level, and I think all airlines should be handing out sanitizing wipes, so it's good that they did that. But let's talk about what I mainly wanted to focus on with the rating, the interior. It was a nice throwback to the early 2010s, and for that reason I enjoyed my experience on this plane a lot. However, I still think that the modern interior that is seen on most small British Airways Airbus planes is a lot better than this. For starters, their modern interior often has mood lighting, even on at least some of the 20-year-old planes. The seats are more comfortable, given that they have an adjustable headrest, more seat pocket space, and I can tell they have more legroom as well. Also, they're likely to be in better condition. These older seats, well, from my AvGeek perspective, I love them for the nostalgia. And they shouldn't be too uncomfortable unless you are flying over 3 hours. But from my general passenger perspective, they are a step down from the standard ones. This brings me to my final score for this flight, which is 6.9 out of 10. To sum up, this was an okay little hop from the UK to Germany with a bit of a classic touch to it. But yes, cabin inconsistency like this continues to be a problem with many airlines, some more than others. But the truth is that with an industry like this that continues to change and adapt to times, it's inevitable, and sometimes you just might not get what you expect when flying. And this is why I'm glad I made this video, so that those of you who want to use my videos to decide which airline is best for you can gain a broader perspective on what to expect. From my experience, British Airways is a highly reliable carrier that I'd recommend to anyone, and they're not as inconsistent as other airlines like United. But with this aircraft type, it might just be a hit or miss.